talk about something involving wrestling. You know, I've been writing up some stuff and just going over what I should say about this thing because I've seen a lot of things on social media about this, and I just want to share it with you people. These were two quotes that I saw on my Twitter a couple days ago, and I'm going to read them off to you. One, the WWE should bring back the Attitude Era, then ratings would go back up. Another one, WWE should be more like it was when I was a kid in the early 1990s. It was so much more fun back then. Now, I hear sentences like this a lot, all the time, on Twitter, on Facebook, when I'm around a wrestling crew. And I've been guilty of saying this. But I don't know, maybe it's because I went through a couple of days now where I really had to look in the mirror, and Chris Soriano really had to mature. And I just started thinking of this, and yeah, I was always saying, you know, bring back the Attitude Era, you know, I mean, I want to see tits and ass and DX crotch chops and all that stuff. And it's mostly people also from my age bracket that say this also. And I just want to say this. Outright. I want to come out and say this. Are there elements from the old school that could and should, and possibly, if it all goes well, will be brought back to the present day wrestling that would change things for the positive? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But blanket statements like WWE should bring back the Attitude Era, then ratings would go up, I liked it better in the 90s. You're asking for a retread sequel, a recreation of what used to be. And that happened with the NWO, and how did that work out? And it's going to accomplish nothing. Really, asking for a recycled retread of storylines is not going to help anyone in the long run. Everyone remembers the cool attitude moments from the late 90s, but they somehow conveniently forget WWE trying to be edgy in late 2002 or early 2003. Because those attempts failed miserably. Or what about 2002 with Katie Vick and Triple H banging a dead woman in the coffin? Yeah. But it was edgy. That was supposed to be edgy. If you were screaming for, oh, don't let the Attitude Era go away, that was your edge in 2002. And how did that work out? The cutting edge television, shock value of television, it wasn't what it was in 2002, 2003, like it was in 1999. And flicking a switch that says Attitude Era, just flicking that switch, that's not going to change things. That's not going to help anyone. It's not going to fix any problems in the WWE or in wrestling. I've never met anyone who has refused to watch a show because nobody says ass enough. They don't say ass enough. They don't say son of a bitch enough. I'm not watching that. They don't say bitch or ass enough. As for the fun days of the early 90s, and I'm talking about WCW too, with all the cartoonish characters, well, those elements have returned to the WWE. And the vocal minority seems very, very unhappy as ever. They seem very unhappy. When I was 5 years old, wrestling was the coolest thing ever to me. I could tell you that I used to plan my day around watching wrestling. Nitro, Raw. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. The interviews, the action, the larger-than-life characters. And it really was larger than life. Big Show was the Giant in WCW, and they had all these magical characters. And, you know, the WWF had Vader and Sid and Mabel and Big Diesel and The Undertaker. And it was just awesome. The superheroes just came to life. They came at you on your television. And it was great. I hung on to every move, every match, every interview. I could probably recite to you the full commentary of 1995 WCW Halloween Havoc. And my brother, if he's watching this, is laughing because he knows that I could probably recite word for word the 3-hour commentary of Halloween Havoc 95 or any WCW pay-per-view that year. Or ever, for that matter. But that was when I was around 5. When I was 11, wrestling was the coolest thing to everybody. Everybody loved wrestling. And when I was in 5th grade, I'm not exaggerating, folks, if there was not, out of 12 to 15 boys, if 5 of them didn't have Austin 316 jerseys, you were like, what the fuck is going on? Everybody had Austin 316 shirts. Rock shirts. Do you smell what The Rock is cooking? DX shirts. They all had them. Mankind memorabilia. One kid actually came into my 5th grade class wearing a Mankind mask. And I actually did too. I ended up getting in trouble for it, but we had grown up. I know 5 years old to 11 years old, but we had grown up. And wrestling had grown up with us. Everyone would talk about Raw or Nitro on Tuesday morning. Everyone wanted to see the pay-per-views, go to the live events, and again, it was just fun. Whether you liked Austin or Rock, and I'm talking specifically now WWF. Austin, Rock, DX, or Sable, Undertaker, Mankind. Hell, Steve Blackman, Mark Miro, Al Snow, Hardcore Holly. Whether you liked anybody, you could watch and just be in awe of what you were watching. It was edgy. It was rebellious. It would push the envelope. It was fresh, trendy. It captured that rebel spirit that was going on in America. Millions identify with it. Raw got an 8.1 rating, a 7.2 rating. Look up Raw's ratings in 1999. Ungodly numbers they were pulling. Ungodly. And I still love those two eras. But it really is important to see the forest from the trees. That really is something that you have to look at. Don't look at it with blinders, but you have to look at it. It's not the stars. It's not the content, the creative direction, or the TV rating that we miss most about those eras. It's what they stand out for in our eyes, in our mind. It's our innocence. It's us. What we miss about those times most of all, folks, and what I miss most of all, is how those eras represented us and what they represented to us. A simpler time in our lives. Who doesn't like being a kid? I loved being a kid. Who doesn't? No jobs, no bills, no responsibilities, bigger than homework. My biggest responsibility, folks, was I had to finish my homework, and watch WCW Nitro or WWF Raw. And towards the end, it was I had to watch Raw. That was my big responsibility in life, was finishing my homework to watch wrestling. The world was fresh. It was new. It was exciting. Anything was possible as a kid. In those days, we didn't become desensitized, spoiled through all the great wrestling over the years. We didn't become that. We didn't become oversaturated with YouTube footage, streaming devices. We didn't sit and worry about if our favorite wrestler was being buried or if it was the right finish. We disliked the villains for cheating because they were villains. We're supposed to not like them. They cheated to win. We don't like them. We didn't get mad with the company for booking cheap finishes. We didn't concern ourselves with how smart we sound on the internet or who was the first one to post a lame-ass meme after a pay-per-view. We didn't know who was coming in and who was about to leave weeks before it happened. We didn't know how the magicians did all their tricks, and we sure as hell didn't think we could do the tricks better than they could. And to any wrestlers watching this, how much less fun would your childhood experiences have been if the internet and social media would have been around back then, as big as it was? the immediate access to information, spoilers. I hate spoilers. Spoilers through the roof. Open discussions of everything behind the curtain. Negativity surrounding those discussions. Now think of the 12-year-old today who looks at wrestling. I want you to close your eyes and think of the 12-year-old that looks at wrestling today, just like you and I did at that age. And how much this probably hinders his or her ability to get lost in the moment the way that we could. We can be cynical and say things like the business has been exposed, kayfabe is dead. But I look at the product in 2015, and someone looks in the product in 2015 the exact same way that my generation did in 95, 99, or somebody else did in 92 and 98. And I hope they hang on to that feeling as long as they can. My wrestling innocence died with the invasion in 2001. It took a big hit. WCW and ECW had closed within 2 months of each other. And then we had the WWF versus WCW rivalry that played out on screen. And that was the fan in me. I was big. I was